Hello, everybody, and welcome again to another edition of the Galaxy Guy podcast. Filling in today, I am Casey Cagle, also known as you Lord of BTs on the subreddit. Chris Maldonado is getting some much-deserved rest and relaxation this weekend. In fact, Matt and I were talking with him earlier, and he sent us a great picture of him fishing out on the river. So we wish him the best in his rest and relaxation, and the show must go on. But I am joined, as always, by Matt Granger. Matt, how you doing this weekend?
I'm doing really well. If anyone's not clear on that, fishing down by the river is actually a euphemism for scouting a 10 for us right now. So Chris is out there trying to fulfill his dream of finding us a 10. But I'm doing really well. Hard Knocks started back up again, which is really cool. I love that show. I love that every team, no matter how terrible they are, I think the Dolphins, my team was on it once. The Browns have been on it. The Raiders have been on it. No matter what, the coaches come in, the teams come in, and they just know the only goal is to win a championship. And I just thrive on that. I think it's awesome. I like seeing the different philosophies. I like how real it is. I like how there's consequences. It's a phenomenal show. And Barca won this weekend. There is life after Messi. So it's been a good weekend so far.
Very nice, very nice. Yeah, European action returning this weekend with the Premier League and Bundesliga. So that was fun to get back into. La Liga as well. So, look, some somber news to start the show off. As some of you may know, last week, Sebastian Lletget lost his sister, Viviana, and he is a friend of ours at the podcast. He's been on as an interview guest before. So on behalf of the Galaxy Guy podcast family, we'd like to express our deepest and sincerest condolences to the Lletget family and those closest to them in this time. And as you saw, the Galaxy wore black armbands in remembrance of Viviana and with solidarity with the Lletget family in their 1-0 victory over Minnesota United on Saturday, propelling us to second in the West and third overall in the league, which is a pretty good feeling. We were sitting high in first there for a few hours, but Sporting KC got the win and took that spot right under our noses, away from us. It was a hot afternoon at Allianz Arena, sunny, mid-80s, kind of like a hot Southern California afternoon up in the northwest there. Perfect conditions for our favorite lighting effect, watching live games where half of the field is illuminated by sunlight and half of it is in the shade. So that made for some very fun camera effects throughout the game. So thanks ESPN and the MLS scheduling gods for that one. Starting lineup for this game, missing a few familiar faces in a 4-2-3-1, kind of like we've been discussing, Matt, on the podcast. Jonathan Klinsmann getting his first start of the season between the sticks. We'll get into him much later. Back line, we had Nico Hämäläinen getting his very first start. Didn't really have much time to even train with the first team, according to Greg. So hopefully he's getting as much of that chemistry going as he can now. With the first team, Williams and Koulibaly as the center back pairing. And we had our friend Julian Araujo at the right back position. Midfield, we had Sasha and Raveloson kind of sitting behind Cabral on the left, Alvarez in the center, and Grandsir on the right. And Joveljic making his debut up top for the Galaxy. Matt, your thoughts on that starting 11?
You know what? I was really excited to see Joveljic out there. I don't think it's a secret that I scouted him very high. I think he's going to be a big add to the team. I think I called it earlier. I think he's going to prove himself to be a starter, and I think he did a good job this game. I think the biggest surprise to everybody was the Klinsmann start. I think that kind of came out of nowhere. Vanny commented on it later, which we can get into when we talk about Klinsmann, but very surprising. We hadn't seen Klinsmann in a long time. It was kind of hard to remember how we rated him initially. Very surprising, but ultimately it was a good lineup to put out there.
Absolutely. And of course, the goal coming from Cabral in the 43rd minute. Some great 1-2 play between him and Joveljic. He had Joveljic getting his first assist there. Some great two-man combination play, an excellent run from Cabral getting in behind the defense of Minnesota United. Substitutes, we had Vasquez come in for Jovelic, Dos Santos in for Kleshtin in the 57th minute, Saldana in for Raveloson, Dunbar in for Alvarez in the 80th, and Dupuy in for Grandsir in the 84th. So hitting that 5 substitute quota. And I think those subs did pretty solid, although they were a little bit late in the game. But we'll kind of get into that when we discuss our good and bad and ugly of this game. But I wanted to play a little bit of a game with you, Matt, because our friend Heaven on Avalon on the subreddit posted a question earlier today, and he asked, "Where does Jonathan Klinsmann sit in the hierarchy of goalkeepers at the Galaxy currently?" But I actually want to go a layer deeper because, funnily enough, we actually have 2 Jonathans competing for the goalkeeper spot this year. And often when you have these situations in social settings, familial settings, work settings, when people have the same name, people like to colloquially nickname these people name 1 and name 2. So my question for you, Matt, is who do you consider Jonathan 1 and Jonathan 2?
Oh, that's a tough question. That's so honest about work. there's also there's also the good Jonathan and the bad Jonathan, as I've heard at work from time to time.
I'm known in my family as Tall Casey, as there is another Casey in my family referred to as Glasses Casey. So that's kind of where I sit.
Yeah.
There are a couple of schools of thought here. Obviously, you could say that Jonathan Klinsmann's Jonathan 1 because he was part of this roster earlier than Jonathan Bond. You could say Jonathan Bond's Jonathan 1 because he's earned and cemented his starting position with the Galaxy. But just wanted to kind of float that one out there because I thought it was a fun question.
I think Jonathan Bond is Jonathan 1. I think he's just the bigger personality. I think he's the bigger factor on the team, but maybe not for long. We'll have to see how this pans itself out.
Nice. Well, look, let's get into the good and bad and ugly of this game. And I know we've shared our notes, Matt, and we have some extensive some thoughts on this game. Let's start with your good notes.
Okay, so my good is going to be the partnership between Jovelic and Cabral. I think looking at them early on and their chemistry, it's everything I was hoping it would be. To start with Jovelic first, he was very strong defensively. He puts out a lot of energy. He's very active. You saw him throw a couple shoulders into people. He's not afraid to be physical, and then he looks like a physically strong athlete as well. In addition to that, as the game kind of went on, you could see that his confidence was growing, which is really good for a person who's a number 9 striker on a team that he's only trained for maybe a week with. For his confidence growing within the first game is really, really good. I think when I did my initial scouting report, I had said that with number 9s that are good passers, you want a 2-to-1 ratio, and he doesn't have it. But I do think we saw early on that at least at this level, he has a good enough understanding to connect with people. Going back to that goal that he had with Cabral, I mean, you couldn't lay out a more perfect pass for him. It was right in the channel where he knew Cabral would be, and Cabral read it all the way. And I think that will go a long way because a lot of Cabral's struggles early on have been that he doesn't seem to communicate, not just language-wise, but in terms of in soccer language with the team, and they don't seem to know what he wants. I think Jovelic knew exactly what he wanted off the get, and we got a goal. Jovelic also laid off a good flick on to Sasha that could have resulted in a goal had with Sasha actually just taken the direct shot instead of deferring. I think he's going to end up being the key to unlock Cabral. I think he's a starter. And I think when they took him off in the 55th minute, you saw Cabral revert back to the Cabral we've all become all too familiar with. On the Cabral side, he scored.
Yeah.
He did his job. Thank
Hallelujah.
goodness he did his job. And it just goes to show you, with a DP and with Cabral, you don't need to move the goalpost because to set new expectations so that you can make it okay with yourself that Cabral got signed. You don't need to make excuses for this guy. He just needed to score. He just needed to do his job. And we just need to be honest with ourselves that you sign him as a DP, you're signing him to have a direct impact on the game. You're signing him for measurable goals, measurable assists, and to have direct impacts on games that we're not necessarily favored to win. That's exactly what DPs are there for, and that's exactly what he did today. That's not
Right.
to say he didn't have faults, right? Like he was very soft on the ball a couple of times. His defensive effort was improved, but it was still sporadic. And
Right.
anytime it got to the point where it could have been physical, he bailed out in his typical 50-50. But nonetheless, him putting in defensive effort, him being physical, him going up for headers, that's all supplemental to what he was signed here for.
Mhm.
He was signed here to score goals and to get assists. And as long as he does that, he's okay with me. So it was a good step forward, back-to-back goals. He's now with 3 goals, 1 assist. I couldn't be happier. As long as he keeps doing this, we have no problems. I think he's going forward the right way now.
Yeah, and I agree. Cabral gets in. I mean, we saw in this game that Cabral knows how to get in behind well, and he had a lot of good runs in the final third that attracted balls over the top and created a lot of good combinations with Jovelic and Hamalainen, of course, leading to that goal scoring chance and opportunity and capitalizing on that. And most of it had to do with that goal. He had the ball on the wing, he plays it inside to Jovelic. He cuts in behind, gets a great through ball, and finishes calmly. So, I think we're seeing more and more of his capability in that regard and his comfortability being able to execute that. And I think that's going to be key moving forward.
Yep.
Yeah. And, I think a couple other players, Hamalainen had a great debut. He had some great runs forward and possessions in the final third. He mirrors Araujo in some ways, I think. And as Greg says, he's settling into his position nicely. So I'm looking forward to what I'll see from him. Obviously it was a little bit weird seeing Villafania out of that starting 11 because he's usually a player who gets most of those minutes in the season. And of course, can't not talk about Julian Araujo. I mean, left fielded players in this league better be paying tax to this kid because he absolutely owns the right side for the Galaxy. He's so defensively sound. He tracks back swiftly and effectively. He absolutely burns defenders. He was running circles all over Chase Gasper yesterday. And most of his successful possessions forward, or most of the successful possessions forward came through him. So again, Araujo's best right back in the league.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Klinsmann, of course, right?
Yeah.
Like who can forget about Klinsmann, the man of the match there. 7 saves, comes out of nowhere, saves us a whole bunch of times on a bunch of goals. Even one that was, I think it was deflected. He got it right at the end.
Yeah.
He just put in a really phenomenal performance. And I think that's what you want to see, right? Like you want to see competition at all positions. You want to see that when people are called upon, that they're going to step up and they're going to play their best. And I think Klinsmann is a testament to that, right? You don't want people to, and I guess this is like a complaint about Cabral it's in the community. You don't want people to feel entitled to their position, right? You want them to seize it, you want them to grasp it, and you want them to own it. And I think Klinsmann made a very good case for himself. Enough so that like a goalie that we thought would be the best signing of the year in Jonathan Bond has now had, people think like, well, do we play the hot hand now? Because Klinsmann looked phenomenal and Bonds looked a little shaky. So kudos to him. Couldn't be happier for him. Happy we got the win. Anything that benefits the Galaxy, I'm all about.
Yeah, look, I had my apprehensions of giving this kid praise initially because of, being the Landon Donovan stan that I am. The tweet when he was omitted from the World Cup roster did hit me in the wrong place. So, but Jonathan Klinsmann, hats off to you, dude. You earned that start and you absolutely killed it yesterday. So we give kudos to you. Getting into the bad of yesterday's game. First of all, Ravelison's was cramping a little bit yesterday, and I don't know if that's the heat or what it may have been. He went down in the 40th and the 77th minute with some left ankle cramps. It looked like subbed out in the 80th. It's something you hope doesn't lead to something long term like ligament damage or anything like that. And it also kind of begged the question, why wasn't there a hydration break during this game? Because it was 84 degrees low humidity in the Northwest. And usually in those situations, they give the water break at least once each half. And I thought that was a little interesting. But again, I'm not a professional referee organization referee, not my call. Um, but moving on to the other bad, Matt, what are some of your bad thoughts on this game yesterday?
Um, I kind of feel like the midfield had a bad game. I think in general, I know we held more possession, but it felt like our possession wasn't particularly composed. It felt like a lot of times we had it and we just like didn't know what to do with it. We had trouble transitioning our possession into like transitive offense. And what I mean by that is like a lot of times we would get the ball and we fell back into the same old habits we had before, right? Where like we constantly played the ball wide. Or what we found a lot was like our center backs are playing the ball over the midfield because they weren't confident that we were actually going to be able to move the ball around effectively. And I think we're going to continue. We've continued to see this throughout the entirety of the season, which is that without Victor Vasquez, we really don't know how to pass like through the spine. It's a big problem for us because ideally we want to start our young, talented players like Seb, JDS, like Ryan. But ultimately, if we can't move the ball forward effectively, north south, and in addition to the wings, then we're going to run into a situation where people are just going to close us off, and we're going to get stifled. So we need to develop that kind of versatility. And then I think it played itself out in that if you look at the stats, I want to say we had like 8 or 9 shots, but only 1 shot on goal, and it was just the goal. I think that was a bit indicative of how poorly our midfield did creating and putting our players in a position where they could have scored. And then I think just on subplots, I think you hit the nail on the head there with Ryan. I just think we're running him into the ground. He's played all the games. He's playing all the minutes. In this game in particular, he was backing Sasha and Efra. And if you had to talk about like a defensive nightmare, it's Sasha and Efra out there.
Right.
So his job's not easy. A lot of it has fallen on the fact that like we've been missing players to Gold Cup. Other players have been injured, and really like behind him, there's really nobody. So I feel like him cramping is the early sign that like Greg is setting him up to be Villafaña ×2. Or Villafaña's injury was really more fatigue based than it was like a collision out on the field. I think he's gonna end up hurting him. So we need to figure something out there. People are going through different things right now, so it is what it is. But yeah, we're gonna run him into the ground. And then subplot number 2, in addition to the midfield being poor, Jonah had a really bad game. He came in, he made almost no impact. I think once or twice he just passed the ball directly out of bounds. He just didn't have a good game, and like I've obviously made my opinion pretty clear for almost 2 years now, where I thought the Galaxy needed to move on from Jonah, that his best years were behind him, and the amount of injuries that takes him out of the game isn't worthy of a DP contract. But I think in this game particularly, he looked a bit distracted, probably for good reason. He's gone through some personal turmoil with the death in the family, so I don't blame him there. But I do think that if he needs to take time, he should just take the time, because ultimately, if you're going out there and you're not 100% there mentally, you're only hurting the self. You're only hurting the team, and then you're hurting yourself because you're putting more pressure. You put in bad performances, and it weighs you down. So I think the coach probably needs to have a conversation with him. I mean, obviously, if he feels like he needs to play through it, I understand, but I think sometimes the coach just needs to read the situation a little bit better. But we'll have to see what happens with Jonah.
Yeah, and I agree. And then things, just to add to the disorganization of the midfield, there was also some disorganization in transition defensively. I noticed, some moments where Minnesota came forward and had, a little more space than we would have wanted to give them. Unfortunately for us, it didn't result in conceding a goal. You had Hunu getting in behind, on Derek Williams plenty of times, most notably in the 28th and in the 33rd minute, getting in for these heading chances. You had a shot from Reynoso in the 36th minute that hit the post, and it would have beaten Klinsmann had it not been wide. Agudelo was left acres to shoot in the 77th minute, leaving Jonathan Klinsmann to fingertip that one away. So, some of that sloppiness translated to some very easy chance creations for Minnesota, and I think something we need to be a little bit more cognizant of moving forward.
Yeah, no, I think you're 100% right, and I'll I'll just transition right into my ugly because you kind of just like
Let's do it.
segued my way in there. Yeah, I think the ugly for me is the the space in between the center backs and then closing out games. I think not saying Sega was bad or Williams was particularly bad. I actually think Williams was bad, but that space that they're occupying together was a vacuum of weakness for us the entire
Yeah.
game. I think you bring
Yeah.
up a good point with Williams getting behind a lot, which is, to be fair, has become a lot more frequent lately.
Yeah.
But if you look at the game and the way they got their opportunities, that space at the top of the box ended up like it was just open all day. And then when we
Mhm.
did defend it, we were caught flat-footed like traffic cones. I think Williams has been a bit in a rut. And like I said, I don't know that if he's in a rut or this is just the player, right? Like you don't want to just fixate on his first two games when he played well. Like you have to take an average of how he's playing, right?
Yeah.
Because you can have a good game, you'll have a bad game, but somewhere in the middle is where the real player lies. And I'm thinking that maybe his our initial assessment in him, we need to reassess him maybe a little bit lower. There was a lot of times when he was zonal defending and he was just like in no man's land. And then when
Mhm.
the play shifted, you saw him trailing, you know. Those are mistakes you really can't make. We're paying a good amount of money. We went to get the international players. We got them from a good league for him and Sega to be like locked down. Like that should
Yeah.
be the one place for sure that we should have no issues. And I think had Minnesota been a better team, they would have capitalized more. And I think I said on the
Mhm.
Discord, like the problem with Minnesota is Minnesota doesn't have a striker, right? Like
Mhm.
Wachope, he did not work out. He's gone. He's at DC United. And then this guy Hanu is basically like Zubac level.
Right.
Had they had a dominant player in the middle, we would have had a lot more issues. And then the
Yeah.
second half of that is closing out games, right? Which again falls on the center backs because that's when they need to take a bigger leadership role. But the Galaxy, time and time again, has shown that like when they decide to park the bus or go low block, they don't do very well at all. Their lack of decisive in the midfield shows, and their disorganization shows. They
Yeah.
don't do well when the field shifts left to right, right to left. And then we bring in Saldana, which has been like a real weird thing that we do when we park the bus. He's not a good like lockdown, like we're parking it defender at
Mm.
all. He's a massive liability. I think I've talked about it before. Like he's not a good athlete. He hasn't his body either hasn't matured to that level or he hasn't invested the time to make himself a great athlete.
Yeah.
His left right his horizontal speed is not very good. He's not particularly strong. I mean, he'll foul somebody, but that's like really all he can do. And then not only that, but his decision making is like a phenomenally big liability,
Yeah.
right?
And
Like
especially
he
in
makes a
duels.
lot of bad decisions. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, he makes a lot of bad decisions and gives away a lot of really good free kicks. I think Saldana is a good player, but the problem is like he's just so young right now. Like maybe 1 out of 3, 1 out of 4 games, you see his full talent, and the other 2 times you see his full youth. So I think for me that was a bit of the ugly, and as a result, in case I saw in your notes that you have the stats, but I'll just bring it up so we can segue back into
Yeah.
you. More than half of the saves that Jonathan Bond made was after the 78th minute
Yeah.
when we took out Ryan and when we decided to go to a low block. So I'll go ahead and hand that one off to you because I know you're going that direction.
No, yeah, and you're absolutely right because the substitutes absolutely stagnated the game in, from the Galaxy's perspective, and that's when Minnesota was getting all of their chances, and they were able to get into our third much more frequently and create those chances. Agudelo ramped up a lot of the pressure when he came on for Hunu, and what is the cause, right? Is it the subs or is it tired legs, right? And I honestly think it was the former. I think the kind of players we brought in, like you said, don't really necessarily help the cause when you're trying to hold on to a lead. And now it's it costed us. And Klinsmann, like you said, was our saving grace. I mean, 4 of 7 saves in the last 20 minutes of the game, which is just insane to me. And kudos to him. He made some of the most point blank, random deflection type shots. And that set piece also from Reynoso was a brilliant save from
Yeah,
Klinsmann.
absolutely.
So it's like you said, closing down games is becoming a problem again for this team, and luckily we got away with the 3 points this time. A couple of other ugly points for me. Of course, first the Gasper tackle on Alvarez in the 8th minute. This is kind of a point of contention of whether or not this is a yellow. But, if you look at the replay, Gasper's trailing foot is fine. It's moving along the ground, but his forward foot really is what should be in question because it's really high on the ankle. And Alvarez looked to have been in some pain, but luckily he was able to play through till the 80th minute. And I agree with the yellow, but it is a little of a subjective call because it's a pretty 50-50 ball, and those are known all around the world as hospital balls, right? Because they usually result in someone getting in an injury from them. But luckily that wasn't the case with Efrain. And another ugly note I had is what is going on with all the short corner setups?
Oh boy.
I don't
Oh, boy.
understand it. I really don't get it. And I don't know if it's a lack of confidence in our set piece takers or if it's just a Greg Vanney thing, because what, we have seen this kind of corner play from Toronto FC before, kind of some cheeky set piece, short passing type setups are part of Greg Vanney's bread and butter. So I don't necessarily like it, but what are your thoughts on that, man?
I hate it. I hate the short corners. I think it's so dumb. I just think it's infuriating. We've even, this has even gone back to Guillermo Barros Schelotto, right? So maybe there is no faith in our corner kick takers, but we're terrible at short corners. We're so much worse at short corners than we're just kicking the ball. I mean, we have Ryan in the air. Just kick it to him. He's shown he can score. If you took 10 corner kicks, right, and Ryan has a 50% chance of scoring any game on a corner, you take those corner kicks. Don't do the short corner stuff. We have 100%. Not yet proven that a short corner is going to be effective for us. Just take the corner kick, leave it up to your team to be tough and to get themselves in the air, and you have a proven goal scorer in the air. Just do it.
I don't think we've scored from a corner this season, have we? Maybe one goal, if I'm remembering correctly, but it's just not an effective way to take corners, and it's not anything I think most Galaxy fans are in favor of. Matt,
the worst part about it is that we short corner to Efra. Like, that's the thing.
Right.
Like, we short corner to the most immobile person we have on the team. Like, I don't know what he's thinking, but Jesus, like, you don't put the fat kid to like run a sprint. Like, just don't do it, man.
He's trying to win more. He's trying to get more of those ices and cookies from Lars after the game for man of the match performance.
I guess so.
Well, Matt, any other ugly notes from our game against Minnesota yesterday?
No, but you know what? Just to tie a bow on this game, Minnesota hadn't lost a game in 13 games. Their last 7 home games, I believe it was like 6 wins, 1 draw. Like, all their wins are at home. So for the Galaxy to actually get this result out was a big kudos to them. We're at the halfway point of the season. Every game we play against another playoff team is part of the war for seeding. Like, it started now. There's no more time for people to like acclimate to the team. There's no more time for people to get used to each other. Like, we're in it. It's the second half of the season. And maybe more so than any other team in the entire league, the Galaxy need to have home field advantage because of the way our roster is structured, right? Like, we have Chicha, we have Sasha, we have Victor, we have JDS. These are all people who are injury prone and older and cannot handle turf. Yeah. So more than any other team in the league, we need to have home field advantage. We need to be either 1 or 2. And all these games, regardless of how hard they are, we need to win. And it just goes to show you, right? Like, we go up to Minnesota, a team that is absolutely dominant at home in hot weather, right? With far travel for the Western Conference. And guess what? Like, we got to win.
Yeah.
Like, there doesn't always need to be excuses of like why things don't work out for us. Sometimes we just fail to meet the moment. This time we didn't. This team is capable of it. This team is capable of winning a cup. And, going back to Hard Knocks, like, there are certain players on a team and people in an organization that you just get paid to play. And then there's certain players and like the head coach, for example, like DPs and head coaches, you get paid specifically to get results. That is the only thing that you get paid for. You don't get paid to play. You have to produce results. Vanney knows it. I'm sure Chicha knows it. I'm sure JDS knows it. Cabral's probably going to figure it out soon. They need to get results. And in this case, like, to Cabral's credit, like, he did it. The one shot we had on goal, he scored it. That was exactly what he needed to do. That's exactly what he's supposed to do as a DP. but this was a great win for us, and we can move on to the next one. We're in a much better position. We're holding second, and even more so than that, we're tied for first in terms of the amount of wins we have in the Western Conference. Even if Seattle wins today, which I think they were leading 1-0 when I turned off the TV, we'll still have more wins than them. And I will go to my grave believing that the only stat that ever matters in all of sports is the amount of wins you get.
Yeah,
That's it.
and yeah, like you touched on it, like especially this season where everything is conference interplay and every point matters. And like we've seen with recent road trips, we've struggled on the road to get points in long stretches. And being able to win this was a validation of this team's ability to pick up the pieces and put a performance in away from home and get those points when we needed them. Yeah, excellent. Yeah, well, I think that's everything for yesterday's game. However, we do have another weekday game coming up this Tuesday. 6 games in a row 3 goals in 6 days for your LA Galaxy, which is a little insane, but we'll take it. Colorado, 6:30, Dignity Health Sports Park, Tuesday night. Tuesday. Matt, I know you've been scouting our opposition a little bit in the Colorado Rapids. What can you tell us to look forward to in this game coming up Tuesday?
So I have looked at the Rapids a little bit, knowing that they were coming up, and just out of curiosity and honesty, because they've had like a bit of a stranglehold on 4th place. And what I can gather is that they are a well-coached team. To their credit, they're a well-coached team. They have a couple good players. Barrios is good. He can pass, he can score. He's a good, well-rounded player. Cole Bassett, I believe his name is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Cole Bassett. He's a good player. He's probably going to go overseas. Very good with the ball. Very good with possession. Very accurate passer. Diego Rubio, solid goal scorer. But in general, like other than Barrios, their scoring is a bit like us. It's kind of a little bit across the board. Everyone has maybe 2 or 3 goals. No one really stands out as particularly special. Lalas Abukar, yeah. He's a good aerial threat for them. He scored 2 off of corners already. He's definitely someone to look out for. He's got insane hops. He always seems to beat his man. He has 2 goals, but honestly, he could have had a lot more. He's very much an aerial threat to us. And I don't know how you would categorize our set piece defending. I guess it's okay, but I wouldn't be surprised if he takes like Williams off guard, if JDS is playing man to man on, because he's not a particularly big guy. If we lose him there, so I wouldn't be surprised if we get a goal there. But Colorado is also a bit of a paper tiger. Like I said, they've had a stranglehold on 4th place. A lot of points, even though they haven't played a lot of games. I think they've played 3 less games than us.
Yeah.
But if you actually dig a little deeper and you look at their highlights and you look at their games and you look at their scheduling, you'll actually see that they've only been 1 playoff team this entire season. So despite the incredible amount of points they have with only 16 games, they've only beat 1 playoff team, and it was Minnesota. That was it. Every other playoff team they've played, they've either lost or tied. They just happened to really beat the brakes off of bad teams. Like Austin FC, they don't have any problem with them. Dallas, Vancouver, they don't have any problems with them. They just are really good at beating bad teams. But good teams, they don't do particularly well in. So, and then also, like if you only play 16 games, we played 19, there's a lot of issues that come when you've played your full set of games, right? You have a higher propensity for injuries, a higher propensity for fatigue, more travel. I think they've just benefited a lot from those 3 extra games, and I don't think they're a particularly good team, to be perfectly honest. I think they're well coached. I think they're making best do with what they have, but I really believe they're beatable. I don't think they're that good. We should beat them. I would expect that.
Yeah, I mean, and some people may say that this also has trap game written all over it, but I think the differences in quality are wide enough to think that the Galaxy should come away with a victory here. Like you said, not a lot of goal scoring power in Colorado coming from any one particular player. You've got guys like Abubakar and Shinyashiki and others getting onto the goal sheet, but none who really take that full goal scoring burden. So it should be interesting to see how players match up. And like you said, Abubakar is a very a big threat aerially. in the final third. So it will be interesting to see how Williams and or Koulibaly stack up against that. And again, three games in 6 days, one of which being a road game, is a little tough. But we'll have to see how our boys do on Tuesday. I'm a little nervous
Yeah,
about this one.
are you?
I am a little nervous because Colorado, they've been creeping up the standings a little bit. Obviously, like you said, beating teams like your San Jose's, your Dallases, and your Austins and things like that. But um, they've been able to pull together performances against the Galaxy at home before, resulting in high scoring draws and some lower scoring losses. But it's Colorado's one of those teams where I don't think you can really take them for granted as an opponent.
Yeah, we've had bad luck against them, but I would still expect a win. This team's capable of it, and if you're going to go all the way, which is really the only goal you should ever have as a team, as a fan, is to win the whole thing. You've got to be able to put games away like this. Colorado, whether I view them as a paper tiger or not, is still, as of now, a playoff team.
Yeah.
And anytime you lose outright to a playoff team, you create a big swing in the standings. So we need to put this one away. Like, there's just no doubt about it. It has to get done. And I would expect it to. If Cabral continues on his surge, if Dijon continues to get better and invest in the team, I don't see why not.
And how do you think we'll line up against Colorado on Tuesday? Do you think it's going to be another 4-2-3-1 that's kind of a similar lineup to what we saw Saturday, or do you think we'll see more rotation there? What are your thoughts on what we'll see on Tuesday?
I think it depends if Seb plays or not. I think Jonah's going to start. I think they saved him away from the away game, thinking we would lose, so that we could play him at the home game. So I think he'll start. And then the last question is just whether Seb's going to play. If he doesn't play, then I would expect Victor to start. I think we're going with a full lineup on Tuesday. And then you just hope Ryan's already fully recovered. But we'll see.
And in the question of Chicharito, I was kind of talking to my friend about this the other day when we were watching the game, and he hasn't seen any minutes in the last 4 or 5 games now. Is MLS are the Galaxy holding out for him to play in the All-Star game? Do you think any of that sort of backroom stuff is at play there in that decision, or do you think it is just them, erring on the side of caution, not letting him get injured, or aggravating his injury while he's recovering at the moment?
So, I mean, look, I don't work for the team. I'm not part of any supporter group. I'm just going to give it to you straight. I feel like the pragmatist in me, which is usually the direction I like to think, tells me that people will usually direct their actions to where the most money can be made.
Yeah.
And I think that there's everyone, including Chicharito himself, probably has an eye towards playing the All-Star game. I think it would floor me if he didn't. I think even like Chicharito has been a big player his entire career, right? And for most of his life, he's always been sponsored. It wouldn't even surprise me if Chicharito's made more money from sponsorships than he actually has from like playing soccer at this point.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt that.
I wouldn't doubt it at all. I guarantee. I want to say, just knowing how these things work, Chicharito's sponsors have already reached out to his agent to see if he's going to play in the All-Star game.
Yeah.
Like, that's just the way the world turns, man.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't surprise me if Chicharito's first game is the All-Star game, just to make sure that he can play it. I think everyone's got an eye towards it. It just benefits too many people in the pocketbook for that not to be true. Obviously, the purist in me wants me to believe that every person who kisses the crest really means it. Every person who high fives a supporters group really means it, but that's just not true, right? At the end of the day, like, these guys are all employees. They're playing for money, and we as fans just get to enjoy the moments they get to be here. No, I think they've got an eye towards the All-Star game. It wouldn't surprise me if that's his first game back.
Yeah, and considering the circumstances, Liga MX All-Stars versus MLS All-Stars in Los Angeles, you're going to have a lot of featured Mexican players in MLS in that starting lineup against Liga MX, Chicharito being one of them, Vela amongst others. So yeah, there's probably a few people wringing their hands, at the prospect of him starting in that game. And so that's probably why we're not seeing him play for the Galaxy in recent matches. But I think we can only hope that he gets back soon. I think we're reaching the end of it, Matt. I think we've talked good, bad, ugly. We've previewed our game against Colorado on Tuesday. We've talked a little bit about Chicharito. You know what we didn't talk? Man of the match. Who was your man of the match for the game against Minnesota yesterday? I think it's rather obvious.
I don't think it is. I'm gonna say for me it's Julian Araujo.
Okay, yeah.
I just think, I'm sure there's some nostalgic Galaxy fans out there. Julian Araujo is the best right back to have ever put on the jersey. He is so far and beyond more talented than anyone who's ever played that position for us. He's a phenom. This is some of the things he does going forward. It's absolute magic. The fact that he's like leading this team in assists from the right back position, that's magic. If you just watch him, he's a massive band-aid for the entire team.
Mm-hmm.
He is covering up for so many people's mistakes from the midfield to the center backs. I mean, this guy is he's it. Like, if you've ever wanted to see a player who was going to hit the stratosphere, you're watching him right now in his like cocoon stage. I'm just so excited for him. I think he's man of the match. There's very few games where I don't really believe that. It's just super cool to be able to see him now. And I think that's why it's imperative that this team really push itself to be great now, because we won't have him forever. And when he's gone, he's going to be irreplaceable. Our team will revert back to like an average or like just barely above average team. He's that good. He is the difference maker. He's the Zlatan of the right back position. That's how impactful he is on the game. I really believe that.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you there. And it really is a shame that there's so much depth at the right back position in the U.S. national team system, because it would be nice to see him play for the red, white, and blue. But it sounds like he's making the switch. So, hey, good for you, Julian. Got to do what you got to do to get as many international minutes as you can. And I think, he'll be more than welcome in El Tri, and he will do just as much damage as he does with the Galaxy. Julian Araujo probably been the best player of the season so far. I mean, him and Bond just made absolute strides in those positions this season from what we've seen in recent seasons. So great to see. Matt, I think that is everything for tonight.
Yeah,
I hope I did a good job here.
Oh my gosh, dang you, Chris. Why do you have to go look for that number 10? You told us at the last minute.
I'm expecting a fridge full of river fish upon his return. But we'll see what happens. Listen, to everybody who's fans of the show, our fans on Reddit, our listeners on YouTube and beyond, thank you so much for joining us. Matt, as always, pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you all for joining us. Leave a big like on this video and subscribe to the Galaxy Guy podcast on YouTube, so that way you never miss out on great content like this. And we'll see you on Tuesday at Dignity Health Sports Park against Colorado.